9 a.m.
If the doc says you can't drive the car, drive it back.
All right.
You're in control. You got-
It is 9 a.m. It is 9 a.m. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. It is 9 a.m. It is Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance. How about we have our two legislators dually lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lee will have to be watching. We'll have another one joining us by Zoom at some point.
You got that, Larry?
Item number 2, call for
I'll get it.
public comment. These are items that are not on the agenda for information only. We will still also accept phone calls. The 2 numbers that they can call in on are 605-882-6248 or 605-882-6297. And those will be addressed during the open part of our meeting. Item number 3, conflict of interest items. Are there any for fellow commissioners?
No,
Item number 4, action to approve the December 20th,
Move to
2022
approve.
agenda.
One of the plats is a conflict, but I'll be recusing myself for one of the plat approvals.
Okay.
So that is a conflict.
Sounds good.
I
All right.
won't.
Other than that, then with that, motion by Van Duzen. I don't think we have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Gable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 5, action to approve the December 6th, 2022 minutes of the Codington County Board of Commissioners. Motion by Johnson,
Second.
second by Waterman. Any additions or corrections? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. We will start with monthly reports. First one is Veteran Service Officer with Todd.
Morning time.
Morning, Todd.
I'll keep this short and sweet. I probably,
Okay.
I will send them when I get back. in the
Yeah, or I'll
office.
just give you that.
Okay.
That works.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
2 transports with the DAV vehicle in November, 2 currently scheduled. 1 we've already done in December, got another one on the 22nd. As far as the office, it's just steady and constant in the office there. We continue to filing claims, starting to see, that uptick from the Honor the Pact Act that was passed in August. So a lot of questions on that. While we are establishing that workspace over in the old welfare office, the idea came up that maybe it would be better for us to maybe move our office over there as far as flow, the clientele flow, privacy, so I could be back in that back office, keep everybody up front. Because as you know, with my office right now, I mean, as soon as somebody comes in, they walk in my door, don't really go over to Jay's side. And then it's just when we're working with 2 different veterans, there's just so much the noise you can hear. So if you guys, I talked with Steve a little bit about that. It's not like we're going to be doing this anytime fast and furious, probably sometime next spring by the time we would get in there and stuff like that. They do, and that would also give us a little bit of a sitting area out there as far as, so
Just a
unless
question,
the commission sees.
Madam Chair, you might know better on this one. So did the lease change at all when the welfare office? So we still.
We still have
Okay.
both. And I had that conversation to see if we could still utilize both and they didn't see a problem with it. So since they didn't change the
That's good.
rental of
That's
it
good.
at all. So yeah,
Yeah, we're getting a good deal.
we're good.
If you do talk to the city at all, we still don't have the lift fixed.
Yeah.
I've been told that they were supposedly going to do it. That was quite a while ago. So I just thought I'd put a bug in the commission's ears. If you
Check
do
with them again.
see that, they did crank up the heat. They moved the thermostat out of our office and put it out to the entryway. That seemed to have increased the heat throughout the building a little bit. So that's helped the gymnast as far as staying warmer in the big auditorium there. So one thing that that's notable here is that there's a new lifetime pass for the national parks. That's for military veterans and Gold Star families. There's information right on the National Park Service. You can go online to make that application for that. From that standpoint, it's a $10 processing fee, but that was just added new this year.
It's a good deal.
Yeah,
That's a
that is
really good deal. actually.
What, like what parks?
All the national
All the
parks,
national
like, so if you wanted to drive through the Badlands,
Okay.
you could show them that card. You don't have to pay the fee to go through there. Mount Rushmore. You still have to pay for parking at
it's
Mount
national.
Rushmore. Yeah, it's national, but there's over 2,000
Okay.
different things.
Is this for any veteran or what level?
It is for military veterans, so veterans that retired from that standpoint.
So to give you some context, so like before it was just active duty. So now it's veterans too. So you just.
And there's also any veteran or any service member that has a 10% disability or higher.
Mhm.
There's also a disability pass that is a $10 processing fee. It's the same as basically this, it's on the national park thing. If anybody has questions, they can always get a hold. I try to, as soon somebody gets service connector or somebody's coming in, I try to let them know, because I do think it's a good advantage or a good benefit that's available to the veterans. Just so many people don't know about it from that standpoint.
And they work. I used mine several times.
Yep. The next comment here, the Toys for Tot box was in the office. The Marine Corps League picked that up. I think they distributed that this last weekend down at the VFW. So that was a good success for them from that standpoint. My goal is to have my first version of the metric spreadsheet presented in the February 23 briefing. That'll reflect the January 23 data. So we'll see how that goes and from there, from that standpoint. So that's a route. Jay will be starting on the 3rd of January, full-time. So looking forward to that. Also a reminder to the just for the local veterans organizations, I put that out to them that the bridge naming program that we've had 2 done in the community, that process needs to be done and into state by the 1st of April. So other than that, if there's any questions, that concludes my brief.
Anyone have any questions?
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank
Can I
you.
have your notes or do you need them?
It's done.
All right. Let's move on then to Director of Equalization.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Shauna.
Gals. Okay, so we are currently updating the property ownerships on all the sales that come through. Right now, we need to make sure we stay on task with those so that the tax bills that get sent out go to the correct people. We're also still working on updating our values for the reappraisals, working on our 22-23 assessment adjustments. The girls are still out doing building permits, probably not this week or last week, but hopefully we'll still get those done in a timely manner. And then as we speak, the Department of Revenue is here working on our sales audit. So that's what we're doing right now.
Hey, Warren.
Shall try.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I'll be over to see you after the meeting.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Okay, let's move on then to Welfare Director.
Sarah.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Good morning. Here's the narrative. I have copies for everyone. Separate sheets.
Thank you.
Thanks, one thing. There's 2 there. All right, good morning. A week late, but later than planned. The top one is just our graph, the numbers and things. Again, we're staying pretty busy in the office. You can see we did go over on funeral assistance this year. I don't foresee that going down in future years. So luckily that we have some budgeted items that we didn't really spend anything, and so we can switch.
And you attribute that to COVID. That, I don't know, people have
Mhm.
died this past year because of
Yeah,
those situations or. You see anything else?
Well, I think it's a combination of just people dying in poverty, which has happened for years. I think it's also that our office is more accurately providing assistance for funerals than we have in the past. And so we haven't always provided as much assistance for funerals as what we maybe should have been.
Are we continuing to work closely with the funeral homes
Mhm.
on that?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think we've had pretty good working relationship with them.
Will
Yep.
you be working with them, the first of the year, the board has to take action to
Mhm.
approve the
Set the
funeral
rate.
rates.
Yeah.
You can kind of look at that and see if you think it needs to be changed or.
Yeah, I don't anticipate increasing that again. Codington County still continues to be one of the higher ones
Okay.
in the states, and
It'll
so.
be one of the first meetings anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm planning to discuss that in January, yeah.
Sure, so quick, so on the total clients versus, I know you guys, you're still kind of working through the
Yeah.
format for this report, so I'm
Yeah.
not trying to put you on the spot, but just, so the total clients versus unique individuals,
Mhm.
that's kind of, or client contacts, that maybe they could help you put a definition on some of that, what that means, but
Yeah, it's where we record things in the system. So the unique individuals is obviously the
what it
different.
says.
Yep,
So
And
you're
then the
talking about
service-
specifically Lee or Commissioner Gable, what a contact, what is the
What-
definition of the
basically what
contact,
what the client
basically?
Contact, I think is basically what.
yeah. If you want to come over, I can show you our computer system and how
I
it
think
records it. That
I
would,
just figured it out in my head. so.
okay, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one spot that we record like more long-term interactions and another spot where we record
I'll have to do that.
small contacts. Like brief, less than 15-minute contacts is what we,
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes. So, yeah. So any questions on that? Okay, so with CARES, once again, her contact hours, or like the billable hours that she did was $3,250 for administrative fees that were reimbursed to the county from South Dakota Housing Development Authority for the CARES program. ICAP was around 72 hours again. There has been some discussion. Hunter is the ICAP employee that we have in our office, and she's looking at changing her hours up. And so they're trying some things for the next month. We might reduce the number of hours we're contracted with them. I'll get back to that in a second. As far as our office, we have a couple applications for the CHW. I need to talk to Natalie about setting up some interview times. The weather kind of threw us off last week. I had hoped to get them scheduled last week, and just the weather threw us all off. I would just wanted to point out our window displays. Carrie's done a fantastic job keeping our office welcoming. And so if you have time to drive by, check out our window displays. Carrie's done a really good job making sure those are seasonally appropriate. So that's been fun. And we're also working on better signage. When we initially moved in there, they were going to take down the awning. So we didn't want to put up a big sign until they took that awning down. Well, now they're not sure if they're going to take down the awning. So we're working with Sign Pro to at least get something up on the awning so that people right now it's just our sign on our door. So I just wanted to mention that. As far as the systems of care, the interagency meeting, we had that, and the high school principal and assistant principal spoke to us regarding the supportive services at the high school, which was really interesting and informative. Around 30 people attended that. Our strategic planning, just updates on all of the working groups again. The community transformation, unfortunately, we did not get the grant from the South Dakota the South Dakota Community Foundation. And so we need to look into some other funding options for that needs assessment. We're hoping to have some conversation with community regarding that here. We do continue to work on establishing what services are being provided by the churches, along with developing a plan for some training opportunities for professionals, community members, and also our clients. We want to really empower our clients to feel better able to make the choices that they need to be successful. The mental health group is working on a plan for the school supports, and so hopefully we'll have that plan kind of ironed out here in the next month. All of the working groups were kind of in this working stage where they're all putting together plans of how we're going to move forward and what's going to happen. So, which is part of the strategic planning process. That's what it should be.
I'm sorry
Yeah,
not to
no, go
interrupt
ahead.
you, but Madam Chair, if I can you explain that just a little bit about what you mean about school supports?
Yes, so one of the things that we've identified as far as mental health services, we had a lot of conversations about how we can really impact our community and provide community support. And the conversation continually came back to children and families and how we can support them. And so then it was that the schools really are kind of the linchpin there. And we have school representation on the committee. And so we've been working with the school district all along. But what we've decided is what we want to look at what we as a community can do to support our school district in supporting mental health and behavioral needs in the school district. And so that's that's really where we're focusing our energy right now, is what our community can do to support the school district.
Okay.
Not putting more responsibility on the school, but what
Right.
we are doing to support our school
Okay,
district.
all right,
If that-
thank you.
Yeah. The centralized services and community education that we have the branding is moving forward, and there'll be a survey coming out here within the next few weeks. It's actually ready to go live. I just have to send it out. And that will then identify what's going to be the most effective branding for kind of the social services coalition that we have with that. So please be watching for that and fill out that survey if you get that link or see that link. The child care working group, the survey has been completed. We meet today, this afternoon, actually, and we'll start looking at what some of those results are. And hopefully in January, then we'll really start putting that work or the plan together on that. And then the housing working group, as you all have heard, we officially announced that the plan of purchasing 612 flats, that's the grant that we've been talking about since August, that I've been giving you reports on since then. And that was really the first goal of the committee in the strategic planning process. And so a little bit about that emergency housing piece is what it is the South Dakota Housing Development Authority has approved $1.2 million in grant funding to establish an emergency non-congregate housing in Watertown. Crestone Builders has agreed to sell 612 flats for the new nonprofit that's being established. So I want to be really clear. This is not actually, even though it's being led through our office in the county, this is not county responsibility.
Right.
This is going to be a brand new organization that's going to be developed and will be outside of the county, won't be part of the county. So this facility will have 8 single rooms for community members. And it also provides funding for case management to assist with helping clients even after they receive housing. And that's really a key piece of this, is that we're not just working on the housing piece, we're working on the ongoing support so that we can change people's lives and really get them where they need to go with that. So the new nonprofit that's being established is called Watertown Cares. Currently, we decided to start with a small 5-member board with representatives from the city, the county, the school district, and then nonprofits. And if you want to know who those individuals are, it's myself, Dawn Sicking from the Beacon Center, because she has experience in running a shelter in our community. Brenda with the county, Dan Shetty with the city, and then John Iverson with the school district are the current board with that. We're in the process of finalizing the policies and procedures and just getting all of the pieces in place so that we can start it and move it forward. And the funding came from the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. They awarded, this was one-time funding through the ARP funds. And so it was kind of a grab it or it's going to be gone situation. Our community is incredibly lucky to be able to have it. And it really is an exciting movement forward for the community to meet the needs of all of our community members. The total amount includes the purchase of the property, the required renovations, the ADA compliance and furnishings, and then the funding for the operating costs, and a portion of the staffing will need to be raised in our community. I want to also really clarify, because there was some confusion with that 1.2 million, that was the purchase price, and that is not the purchase price of the property. That's the amount of the grant funding received. And so that is what we're doing in our community. And I want to thank all of you for supporting this and helping this. Like, when we talk about taking care of our citizens, this is the way that you guys as commissioners are helping take care of your citizens. And so thank you for all of your support and everything you've done for that. It's really
And
incredible.
just so the public knows, that 612 Flats is located on South 81.
Yes, yep, it's the old Drake, it's the motel part of the Drake.
Across,
across
on the east
street.
side of 81 there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say this is something that's been a challenge for the welfare office, for the Beacon Center, a lot of different agencies in our community is just finding this very short term, quick housing for someone. And even at that, when they're in there, trying to get them long-term housing, that's another challenge,
Mhm.
affordable long-term housing. So this is definitely a challenge in our community that
Yeah.
we're trying to address. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's been a struggle.
Yeah, yeah, it's a huge piece of filling that puzzle.
Thank you.
All right. That's at the end of your report. Anyone, any other questions for Sarah?
I'll try to stop by the 24th
Okay.
report sometime.
Sounds good.
All
Okay.
right, thank you. You too, thanks. Okay, we'll move on then to the highway superintendent. Morning, Rick.
Good
Morning, Rick.
Well, sounds like enjoy today. Because it won't be the same tomorrow. Or for the next 3 days after that.
No ice, all right.
No
rain.
I hope not. The weather has affected our projects that we were working on. Last week, we were still hauling gravel. That came to an abrupt stop. And we had the snow and the ice. And some of the stuff has probably 1.5 inches ice on it.
Let me show you some certain pictures.
These are a couple of pictures that I took up by Waverly. There's more ice over by Waverly than on the west side of the county. That's a
Jeez.
2-inch Telspar post, and there was probably 1.5 inches ice stuck to that. And it's just
Hmm.
that country does not warm up.
July,
July.
4th of July.
Did I get them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I had some neighbors out trying to knock the ice off their evergreen trees, and I don't do that.
Yeah,
Because they're knocking the boughs off, they're hurting the trees, you know. They said, well, they're radiant so bad and I said, in July, they'll be all right, you know, but it's hard for them to see that. And if you look at the trees, even in shelter belts, trees are all leaning with the load of ice. It's tough on them. But leave them alone because it's tougher on them if you go out and start knocking them off, you know. You knock the branches off.
yeah. Yeah, we're currently putting a little salt sand down right now in some of the spots where it's heavier, just trying to get a little traction. I went out for a drive last night. I wanted to see what it was like after dark. And there's slick spots. And we slowed the spinners down on the sanding trucks to try and just dump more, because salt sand doesn't work unless it gets above 15 degrees. Well, we're probably not going to get to 15 degrees for a while. And we're just trying to add a little traction because it's not a cure-all right now. We're going to try and scrape some spots. We've got some points for one of our motor graders here in town. We're going to go out and start working on spots like that and on the gravel. Because some of the gravel is probably worse than the asphalt because there's absolutely nothing there. It won't warm up. But we're working on it. Like I said, tomorrow it's supposed to snow again, so
Yeah.
wind for 3 days. Like I said, gravel hauling came to a end. Our riprap, we'd been hauling riprap in spots where the water was down lower enough to get riprap in to protect the roads. That's came to a screeching halt. Our new mower tractor that we ordered last January came the 13th of December, all covered in snow. We still have trees to haul out of Memorial Park to our pit straight north of there. And yesterday we burnt that. And so we have room to get in there, get trees put back in there, and then we'll have to burn it again because that's a FEMA project through Memorial Park. Our guys have started doing inventory. That'll take us a while to do
in and out of the snowstorms. And this is just a little PSA on my account. When you're riding snowmobiles and four-wheelers and you see a plow truck or a motor grader, get away from the ditch. I had to stop for people last week. I had to run the motor grader because we were shorthanded. And I had to stop for an adult and a child on a snowmobile next to the shoulder of the road. You should know enough to stay out of that. You know, we can't see you most of the time because we're creating a snowstorm around us. So use a little common sense. I know you want to ride, but there's places to do it and to do it. So that's about all I have.
Rich, do we have someone asked me this the other day, and I think I'm trying to know a little why, not knowing. Do we have one of those trailers that we put behind a plow, you know, the
No.
extra? I thought we were gonna get one of those a while back, but we never did get one.
No.
Have you ever heard any reports on them?
They mainly use those by the state. They use them on the interstate
Yeah.
because they can take up 2 lanes
Yeah,
where it'd be a little tough for us.
yeah.
Rick, I guess I would just, that was kind of an unprecedented snowstorm that we just had. And, we don't see those types of events very often in South Dakota. We do get a lot of snow and a lot of cold and sometimes occasional ice, but this particular event was unique in that we had the ice storm and then we had heavy snowfall. So I would like to commend you and your staff. And I heard from some members of the county out by Henry and over by Wallace in that area that they were very pleased with how things went. And so kudos to you and your staff and keep up the good work. It's still early into the winter season, but I know you guys are out there doing the best job you can. We appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank
Keep-
you.
keep-
We
Keep our traveling public safe. I think
Yeah.
that's important.
we came in Saturday to make sure all the roads were open because the wind finally let up a little bit. So
Mhm.
we did have to work Saturday. So,
Yeah.
and we'll probably have
Yeah.
to work this Saturday.
Tell the guys we appreciate them coming in.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
we really do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Well, we have 2 minutes before our legislators are supposed to talk to us. Steve?
Starting.
Yes, so I think we'll get you guys going and we'll just have Steve wait.
Come on up, Hugh.
So if you want to come up here, Hugh, is that working for you? And Byron, if you want to come up, Lee, do we want to see if we have one more trying to,
Been watching, but nobody's trying to come in.
I'll text him and see if he's gonna be able to or
Is that
not.
Lee? Schoenbeck?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we're starting a little bit early.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. See if he answers back. Yeah,
turn
we
it
gotta turn that,
Just push
turn
it.
the mic
Just
on.
push it. There you go.
All right.
All right, so welcome. Just thought we'd do a little meet and greet with you guys before the legislative session starts. Just kind of pick your brains a little bit, what you're thinking, and then just those lines of communication for during the session, if there's things that come up that is pertinent to counties, and just keep those lines of communication open. So,
Right, congratulations on being reelected, both of you.
Thank you.
Elected. and reelected.
Good first, yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Good to
ahead.
have
So-
you out there.
Well, thanks for inviting us. Well, I don't know why I get a frog in my throat this week, but I'm doing that.
that's
Um,
the weather.
Thanks for inviting us to the county commissioners meeting. It's always a pleasure to come up here and talk with you. We talked several times throughout the year and I appreciate that as well. There's gonna be a lot of things in a 38-day session this year. We're gonna do a lot of things. We're gonna cover everything from lowering taxes to increased spending, building prisons. There's some of the other hot buttons. We're gonna look at sentencing, I think, for criminals. We're gonna look at county jails again. I don't know if there'll be any progress there, but we're gonna keep working at those problems and working through those things. Byron's got a bill to help counties and local governments and even state government on bidding that we're looking at putting in. That's kind of where we're at. If you got any specific questions, I'm certainly more than willing to answer them.
I'm curious about where we're at on the regional jail study and how that's progressing. I know that you just mentioned that, but
As vice chair of that summer study, the summer study really kind of realized that counties didn't want us to change anything. They thought they had plenty of authority to group together and work together. Counties that aren't going to have the jail don't want to pay for it. Counties that are going to have the jail want to run it, don't want to have other counties tell them how to run it. So we really didn't change any of the laws there. They would like some money out of us. There was some money set aside for regional jails in last year's budget. There will be a bill to authorize that to be put into loans and maybe grants, but it has no funding mechanism to refill it.
okay.
So that's not a real good plan in my,
He's in the queue.
it's a one-time deal at this point. Unless they come up with some plan to constantly refill that fund. It's not a real good thing. So I don't know if that'll go anywhere. Hopefully, in my opinion, if you can't make it ongoing, it doesn't make sense to do. And it's really hard to stop. There's 24 jails basically that are all regional jails in the state now. One of them is kind of not a regional jail. They do booking for one county and they only hold prisoners for 3 days. That's in Vermillion, but they're building a new jail. They passed to build a new jail in Vermillion. So
How many bed is that going to be? Do you know?
no, I don't.
Hugh, when you say essentially we have regional jails in South Dakota, that's true because many of the smaller counties, of course, have to contract with the larger counties to house their inmates.
And that's the way they
So-
want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I followed that study, the committee pretty closely. I thought you guys captured, the situation very well, just as you characterized it. So there was talk of a piece of legislation to kind of model the regional railroad authorities. Is that what?
Yeah, there is a
is that
bill.
likely to?
There is a bill to create another arrow in in your quiver. And it's to form a regional jail authority with other counties. And then that authority has the ability to borrow money.
Oh.
And they can either pay through it for the operations. That means that every bed would pay. Like if it was built here in Watertown, you would pay for every bed you use or you'd contract for beds. Or they would levy a real estate tax to pay for the jail across all the counties.
So, I mean,
And those are all referable.
to me, that's like, so it's modeling the regional railroad authority where they have the ability to levy tax. I mean, that's kind of that's the thing. So it's very, in some ways, it seemed to me very similar to the the current law that allows a compact, but it does have that. I mean, that's, not that we're excited about.
It also
That's
moves
something
the
to think
running
through.
of the jail to the authority.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
authority would run the jail.
Right.
Yeah, that has to be established. I seen that draft 107 of that regional jail up in Aberdeen. I don't know that they would, they're kind of in the process of doing that. I don't know that they're going to follow the legislation to do that. I think they have counties that are probably more on board to do that with them. So without having to go through this process.
They have the authority counties currently have the authority to enter contracts
Mhm.
without any special jail legislation. So.
Yeah.
And that's how Brown County and 7
Mhm.
or 8 counties are looking at doing it.
Yep, they're going to go through that process. Kind of like what we do, we contract, but the challenge is, the dollars that you can contract for, do you contract high enough in order to cover, you cover your costs, but then it's not the bricks and mortar part of it. So,
But do we, I mean, really, are we able to cover
we
our
raised-
costs
yeah.
with what we're trying
Yeah.
to achieve
We did
with our
raise
daily
it.
rate?
You can
Yeah.
cover this depreciation and, capital, recapitalization. It's just a tricky thing to do. It's a very hard thing to keep up with
Yeah.
because of construction inflation.
Mhm.
So, it's, you almost need somebody kind of like an auditor to look at that specific stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
well, and with
That's
that,
it.
we cover the daily costs basically, but not the bricks and mortar
Right,
part. No,
right,
No,
right.
but
That's-
just for the
That was the
housing of
point,
the
yeah.
prisoner. Yeah. Yeah,
You
no,
should throw some bricks and mortar and obsolescence costs in.
start
Yeah.
putting it in a rainy day fund, but then by the time you build it, it's costs way more. You know, it's just it's one of those things.
Yeah, if you don't put any in, you never get it.
Yeah.
So-
And we have, is Lee showing
Yeah,
back
he's up.
on with
Yeah.
us as well? Good morning, Lee.
Good morning.
Morning, Lee.
Sounds like you guys are right to the meat of
muted.
things.
You may be still muted. Yep.
Well, that's good. I don't know who's running the mute.
It might be you need to select your microphone in Zoom. It
So
might be what's
it's on-
causing it.
It's on your end.
We'll just read his lips.
Sorry.
How's that?
Yeah, I'm not hearing that.
You can translate to my phone. I'll read it.
It's on your end.
He's pointing at you, Lee.
I can't do it. So at there's a little arrow next to the microphone icon that might be,
It doesn't
Well,
look
just
like
like-
you're muted on this end, Lee.
he's probably not, but it might be that you have to
Is it
select,
something on
you have to,
the,
you have to wait, where you have to select that. You can't see it on there.
he said it's mute on our end. So do you have to do something over there?
No, it's not. Regional.
It's the volume.
Or
on the
does he want to
TV.
try to,
It's the volume on the TV.
just hold on 1 minute? No, we're gonna double
Technology.
check something here. So he can hear us evidently.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay. Or if he goes out and tries to sign back in again.
It's probably the.
Well, I appreciate the work of the group studying the regional jail philosophy and, you know, that's a real
Communities.
difficult situation for
Okay.
us in South Dakota and that we have so many counties that depend on.
Lee,
jails.
we're going to just call you. I have is your cell okay if we call that? And then we'll just have you on speakerphone.
So why don't you tell them about your
I'd like to hear.
bid bill?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Will. Madam Chairman, thank you for inviting us. I know most of you know who I am, but I'm not sure you know who I am. I grew up in Howard, South Dakota. Some of you know where that is. Graduated from Huron University with a master's degree in 95-ish. My career in my life has been with the power industry and
Hello,
Good morning.
Morning, Lee.
good morning. I'm listening.
Okay,
very
go
good.
ahead, continue, Byron.
when I moved to Watertown in 2000, I went to work for Western Area Power Administration. That was my final 16 years of my energy career. And he was seen fit to put me on the Commerce and Energy Committee, the Education Committee. I taught at the college level for 10 years, 5 of it up here at Mount Marty. And a 41-year career in the National Guard. So he put me on the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. So that was good thinking on his part. I'm excited about that. And it's for a while there after the election, I was in kind of a fog because did this really happen? You know, been working on this for 4 years, so to the point of, 4 years ago, I ran with Lee. And so it's finally, but about a week or two after that, I found out it was real because all the invites are coming in, all the letters are coming in, all the requests are coming in, come to this, come to that. And it's really exciting. I'm supposed to be in Sioux Falls tonight, but this weather, I'm not going to go down.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, the bid bill that I'm sponsoring is to help counties, cities, and other government entities ratchet up the cap for allowing you to bid. Right now, I think it's at $25,000. I'm going to propose to raise it to 50. I can take, advice and counsel from every other entity who may be affected by this. But I'm excited about that. There's a couple other bills that I'm looking at co-sponsoring, but right now that's my main focus. So otherwise, I think it's going to be an exciting time. And I look forward to it. So there.
Huh,
Thank you again for inviting us.
Absolutely. Glad that finally worked out that you guys could come.
Glad you're here.
How about Lee? Would you like to add anything to the conversation?
The regional jail thing, we Hugh Amel, I know, is working on the fence side. And I was just saying from a Watertown delegation perspective.
Hey, Lee, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Can you mute your speaker? We're getting some feedback.
I do have it muted on the Zoom.
Okay.
I'm only talking through the phone.
You want to try to mute your, or shut your speaker? Here, like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like right now, can you hear me through Zoom? No, see, you can only hear me through the phone.
There, now we got you. That's better.
Byron knows me.
So I don't think this has been mentioned. We're very fortunate, I believe, to have leadership in District 5 here in both the House and the Senate. And so Hugh being the speaker this session and Lee, the majority leader. So President Pro Tem, yeah.
We are very fortunate. With leadership roles, so. We have your numbers. And you have ours. So if there's things you need to find out as well, like. Going to affect it, you know, how.
One of the other things that the auditor's office might be interested in is elections. I've heard from a pretty good source, there probably won't be any bills this session on elections. But don't let your guard down is what I was gonna say. But we will probably do maybe a summer study on it or something and look at it. I don't know if we need to do an actual summer study, but the Secretary of State has indicated that she wants to take a year to look at it. So
What is she proposing or what would?
I really don't know. Just proposing waiting a year is all I know right now.
You guys got your work cut out for you, I know. Trying to find that $200 million or whatever it is to fill some of these gaps that the food tax repeal, and that's kind of quieted down a little bit here last couple of weeks. Maybe it's a blizzard, I don't know. But I think all of us are still sitting back, and you as well. That where's that gap gonna be filled from? You know, where's that money gonna come from to fill that gap? And well, I guess that's what you're out there for, right? Figure that stuff out for us.
I've talked to quite a few people, and this is Byron. I've talked to quite a few people about the food tax. And the vast majority say it's only 6 cents on a dollar. Don't mess with it, because we don't want property tax to go up. We don't want other taxes to go up. We don't want a state income tax. So I'm not so sure that leaving it is where it is. I mean, $110 to $115 million, that's not going to come out of the air. That's got to come from some place where and Medicaid expansion's going up. That doesn't compute for me. So I'm right there right now.
I think those are really fair comments. Medicaid expansion in 5 years is going to cost us $80 million a year out of the state budget is the estimate now. That's a huge cost for us. When you back up and look at 10 years before pandemic, the normal revenue increase was $45 to $54 million. Now we got an $80 million new cost coming in. Yes, we've had real growth, limited real growth, but it's pretty well spoken for. We have nursing homes that are short money. We have community support providers like the group homes here in our community for a human service agency. that are short. Dentists are short on Medicaid reimbursements. They're getting reimbursed about 55% of their cost. So there aren't a lot of dental choices for people on Medicaid. We just need to keep working through these things we're already committed to and maybe fund those first.
Yeah.
And I think some legislators are coming to that point of view, along with what people are telling us about it. So, and I will wait until we form a budget before we make a decision on any tax cuts.
I would jump in and just say that Senator Crabtree and I have been involved in 7 meetings all across South Dakota with employers, people who run sort of organizations. Total probably 100 people in attendance at those meetings. There are a number of concerns.
as well. And that is one of our working groups through our strategic planning that we did here in Codington County, is to get these surveys out and yeah, try to address that even locally. You know, it's across the state, but each community pretty much has to try to work on that issue.
I got to switch gears, a question, not a question, but a comment and return fire. But I think it's positive. This past week or last couple of weeks, South Dakota Retirement Fund, and I know Hugh's been involved with that as part of the legislature's oversight committee. And the question was asked is how much of the investment council's investments are made into China and Russia. That's kind of interesting because at one of our board meetings about 3-4 months ago, I don't know, it was a while ago, I asked that very same question. And I got a quick answer from Matt, the executive director of the investment council, said, well, at that particular time, Russia's financial system had just gone kaput. It wasn't active at all. But the governor did challenge the investment council, which I'm saying the investment council because they're the ones that actually invest the money that's put into the retirement fund, which is I think the portfolio is north of $14 billion, which is a pretty good chunk of money. And so they did a deep dive into how much money is actually invested in China and Russia. And Hugh, you got some reports on that, I'm sure.
It's a very small percentage, and it's through an investment fund in emerging markets. There are no direct investments in Chinese companies. There's no direct investments that I'm aware of in Russian companies either. There is an emerging markets fund that we're in that does have some limited investments in Chinese companies.
An emerging market fund, for people that don't understand that, that's funds that are invested that we may not know about.
Yeah.
It's what that is.
And it's not an individual investment. We don't pick the investments, an investment advisor does. And we pay them for their services. It's something that we can't do on our own.
Yep.
And they invest in smaller countries across the globe. So we have some global investments to level out the yield. And usually those are very high return opportunities as well. And it's a very, very tiny percentage. It's like 1% or 2% of the fund is in stuff like that. And it's 14 billion. I don't think you kind of, somebody might think you said 14 million, but it's 14
with
billion
a B,
with
as
a
in
B.
boy, yeah.
The
14
B is
billion.
in boy. So it is real money,
Yeah.
and it is invested. And we have one of the two best in retirement plans in the country for governmental retirement plans. There's only one that's close to us, and I think ours is better. So we should be proud of it. Yep.
I think that can write it down in my brain, but I think
Yep. Yeah, I think that's about right. It's way less than 1%.
Bottom line is the South Dakota retirement fund is still financially solid and sound, and it's doing well. The market is nuts, but we all know that, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And while we're talking about the retirement fund, there's over 70,000 people involved in that. I think it's close to 80 now.
Yeah.
You might know the number better than I do, but it is a big impact on in our state and our community and our county. So it's important because every state and government employee in the state now is on it, other than a few that are in some old plans. But yeah, like all the new employees in Sioux Falls are coming on to the state retirement plan. That was kind of the last holdout. So, but it is very important to our state. And it's important to the county because now you have an asset on your balance sheet instead of a liability. Because it is 100% plus funded.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Does anyone have any parting comments? Lee, are you okay? You have anything you want to add? Good. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys
Don't be
coming
afraid to
and
call us either.
coming up and joining us.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah. Good.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Good. Thanks, Byron.
thanks,
you.
Byron.
Thanks, Hugh.
Heal up, Hugh.
Yeah, just got to get up
Thanks,
and
Lee.
stretch. Yes. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now we will circle back and we'll have our facility manager report.
By the way, I love that coat. Notice it.
You know what it is?
It's a
Yeah.
navy coat.
Saw the buttons there, Byron. Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Not a Chinese knockoff. No, it's not.
Oh, good morning.
Morning, Steve.
We'll start out with the ag building. Heard some stuff. We had the Jordan Metcalf show. Heard about some blocked driveways again as we had on that event. They seem to block with their horse trailers and stuff like that when it comes to be ice hockey and skating. That remedy will be solved when they get done with the ice arena, hopefully. Yeah, I don't know. December is usually a quiet month till January when it's kind of quickly picks up. Staff is setting up the barn in preparation for the farm show. Government buildings. Purchased a new entry rugs. These are more solid pieces right now. The rugs that are kind of narrow, this will fill in so it won't be sliding around. Plus they are capable to handle a little more of the snow and so that in those areas and then cause less trip hazards. Shampooing carpets throughout the building, stripped and re-waxed the ground floor. Detention center. Boilers are fixed and working at this point. Doing some repairs on some small drainage pipes. There's a few pipes yet that still have the black pipes yet. Some of them are starting to leak a little bit, so they're doing some repairs and taking them out and putting plastic pipes in. Sent out a couple RFPs for engineering for the HVAC system. I've responded back to one of them as well, and so it's currently right now got a couple of them. I know Brenda had sent one out to another agency, and so I have not heard back from them yet.
So those are the first Tuesday.
Yep, due first Tuesday of January. Park. First crew got the Girl Scout agreement to sign and complete. As far as original copies, I talked to Tom. They have not been mailed to him yet. That's why hopefully they get here soon. And so, and then got word and email here on Friday. CampSpot is increasing their online and offline fees for an additional $1 per booking. So I'll have to need to get approval for signing the terms of the extra fees. So I put that on the agenda for,
What are they up to now? off the
it's
top here?
currently will be $3 for, online and $1 for offline.
Okay.
We got a discount deal for starting up new. Got word from the city. He had received one also, and so that too, so. And then, probably have to reflect, looking at maybe some, fee charges and so on. Currently, right now, it kind of, it subsidizes it, but we might have to look at that in the future. All right, weed. I attended end of the year seminar on November 30th in Sioux Falls. It was very instructional, informative and so bad on it. The one of the things that they had was somebody there to give about equipment and winterizing, and a couple steps that they kind of pointed out that we kind of don't rarely do and so that, and to help extend the life of pumps and so that. So that was very well worth it. And had a weed board meeting on December 6th. We set February 22nd at 6 p.m. for the annual soup supper and meeting. Please note that is Ash Wednesday. I asked the board and they says, we've been conducting it for several years this way. They're well aware of, so I know that there's services and so that pretty well periodically through the day. So if they need to go February 22nd, yes.
George Washington's birthday.
Okay. And then Ron Mooring, the city liaison, has accepted another 3-year term. Chris Copland, which is due this year, requested to resign. It was voted if nobody was to take a spot, he would accept it, but did find someone in his area. Mike Paulson from Henry area said he would accept to serve on the weed board. West Nile, mosquitoes were resting for the winter. All right, last subject, phones. Well, the phones are in. In fact, the box of phones that belong up here is behind you. There has been some temporary setbacks on installation and porting. They're scheduled to start on it today. I haven't heard, they were supposed to start at 9. Haven't heard a call yet from them that they're here yet. With scheduled port date of I'm going to say now possibly the 28th because of porting. I had to contact CenturyLink yesterday because some numbers said it was not on the account. Did find out there is multiple account numbers. I don't know if Cindy was well aware of it. I know you just get one number. Well, I did find out there's multiple account numbers for phones. Don't ask me why. So also, due to the billing setup that they sent the first invoice, they didn't categorize each department correctly, and it's all become a one lump sum. The government building will cover the first month of this charges and so that with the phones and stuff, and then they're supposed to have it all split out, divided for the next month.
It'll go through Brad, but then be split.
Yeah, it's right now. Brad gave me the what he took out for his stuff, and then I've got it in my possession right now for. So, any questions?
Nope.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sorry, just one quick one.
No problem.
Did you say you had folks coming?
they're supposed to be coming setting phones up
Take-
today
Okay, I meant
and
for the,
tomorrow.
okay,
Or
and then
coming. Oh, you mean?
for the proposals.
I have one gentleman from Aberdeen that said he would like to come and do a visit.
Yeah.
That's why so
Okay.
set up a time, and I
Right.
kind of reminded him that proposals are,
Yeah.
submitted to be in by January 3rd, so.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
All right, so item number 10, we are still waiting or?
Well, you can authorize, you just probably
Just
are not
whenever
gonna
it
have the,
comes. Okay,
you won't have the actual original papers.
okay. So we don't need you to be here for that, then basically it's self-explanatory.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you, Steve. Item number 8, Luke, you're just in time. Action to approve plat resolutions, and we'll take them separately because the first one, Gebhardt, is the one that Commissioner Gable is recusing himself from.
Morning, Luke.
Good morning.
Good morning, Luke.
So just if we just let the minutes reflect that I'm gonna recuse myself on the first one.
I just said that.
All right.
8A.
All right. The first plat is and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Luke.
Good morning. All right. So the first plat is the plat of lots 1 and 2, Gebhardt First Edition in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of section 24 in Lake Township. If you don't have your township range numbers memorized, this is straight north of Watertown, straight north of the Readiness Center is probably the best way to say it, in the same section. That dead end is Williams Drive is what that road is named. This property was granted a farmstead exemption a year ago. They're fulfilling their obligation to validate that with a plat here. This is the second attempt. Probably there are 3 things that I do want to just point out, although it's mostly just for the record to validate that we were doing that which we need to. 1, there is an easement that travels across the west edge of this property to go down to the farmland, which is to the south, in case those would become 3 separate owners in the future, which is good planning there. The second part is as far as there's a dotted line that follows the quarter line there at the half section mark. That is for future development, should conditions warrant future development of that property for a collector street, which is a big street. Kind of think 19th or something like that in Watertown, should the city of Watertown develop. So they reserved an area in there so they don't build over the top of it. And then the last thing is that there's a little dot on that plat, which is the location of a building that's on that legal description. I just want to point out, we don't typically do that. However, this was an old building and the applicant was willing to put a note on there that says that they acknowledge that there are no new building permits. We don't replace that building. That building falls down. It's gone. We're not adding to it. It's a 100-year-old building. It's a temporary issue. So that's it. Otherwise, Planning Commission recommended approval yesterday.
Moved to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Johnson, second by Van Duzen. Any comments, questions on that? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And Gable recused. All right, then on to the next one, Stark Edition in Compesca Township.
Sure. The second plat is a plat of Stark Edition in section 11 of Compesca Township. This is straight west of Compesca Village on the county road there that heads over to the S curves, Highway 212. This was one that the board essentially granted a variance to, which was one that had been issued, past zoning administrator had issued a variance to the family to build on one side of the section, on one side of the quarter. And they just flipped that with the ability to keep mom and dad's lot with the small lot as opposed to the son's place. So now the son owns 35 acres. The other son will now own the other 5 acres. So bottom line is 5-acre lot as a requirement of a variance. It's an L-shaped lot with a little dotted line there on there. And so board recommended approval yesterday.
So moved.
Motion by Johnson, second by Waterman. Any other comments, questions? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. All right.
That's
Very
it.
good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Luke. Get all them signatures done and
Luke, you will report back later with an annual update or
Yeah, I'm thinking that'll probably be.
sometime.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably around the first meeting or second meeting of the
You
year.
shared that with us last
I
night.
did.
Some of the
Mhm.
Yep.
board would like to.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that you guys have it too, because I kind of want to use that as justification as far as we may not throw that fee schedule right at the first week, but I'd like to see that sooner than later, because I'd like to update that thing if we can. So anyway, yeah, we'll do one. My goal is to make sure that we do that before our first our January Board of Adjustment meeting, so that I can give you guys a report on that, because with that, and then we'll also have some new appointments at the beginning of the year. So I'll plan on being here for that first meeting.
Thank
Okay,
you, Luke.
thanks.
very good. Thanks, Luke. All right, then we will move on to item number 9, action to approve the auditor's account with treasurer and note register deeds monthly fees.
The register of deeds monthly fees collected in the month of November were $32,754.35. And then we will need action to approve the auditor's account with treasurer, which shows you how much cash we had on hand at the end of November and the fund balances in the various funds as of November 30th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Van Duzen, second by Gable. Any comments, questions about that? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 10, action to authorize the chair to sign lease termination agreements between Codington County and Girl Scouts Dakota Horizons. Like Steve mentioned, when we get those documents from Tom, it's just giving the approval to sign when that happens.
So moved.
Motion by
I'll
Johnson,
second.
second by Gable. Any comments or questions? And that is that building, that is that Memorial Park that we will be acquiring now. So, all right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion carries. Okay, item number 11, we're going to put that on for next Tuesday. Natalie will be here. And hopefully by that time, we should have all of them good to go. Item number 12, discussion, possible action to determine the criteria for disbursement of RAFE funds. Okay, I put this on the agenda because by January 15th, you guys will need to determine who will be receiving those funding, that fund from the RAFE funding for improvements to structures on the township side. These are dollars that have come from the state that have been put into a fund. I believe Codington County, and we have received it all now. The amount that is in that fund is, well, it's a little more because we didn't spend the first amount. $299,884.95, but actually we didn't spend any of the first 2 allotments, so we have a total of $354,427.02. So that is going to. No,
This is
okay.
it right here, yep.
So
because
we are
adding
accruing interest.
to it.
Okay, so we actually have 300.
Gaining interest.
Yeah, so that was the original dollar amounts. Now with interest, it is 358, 323.53. And that will keep accruing interest then, and as long as those funds stay in there. Okay, so go ahead.
When does that have to be dispersed by?
Well,
Is there a deadline? I don't
no,
remember.
so every year there will be a process. So there's certain criteria that the townships, a process that they need to go through. So by August 31st, they need to fill out, let me look at this. The applications need to be, the 5-year structure plan needs to be filled out by August 31st of each year. Okay, so you'll also want to determine, there has been several forms. The state has a form, the Township Association put out a form. I think you could accept either. I believe the Township Association one is probably less cumbersome for them to fill out. So, I mean, I think that's something that we maybe just want to note, that either form will be accepted. You know, if they want to go online and do it through the state, because at this point, the state hasn't determined that that's the one you need to fill out. So I think locally we can
Okay,
decide
so
that.
we make that decision?
I
Very
believe,
local.
yeah,
Good.
but if you just say you're going
So-
to accept either one.
Thank you.
So we'll kind of go through, were you gonna have a question?
Well, I think, well, why don't you finish up and then.
This is just the initial,
Yeah.
the applications,
go.
okay? And so then by October 31st, they need to fill out the application. So first it's the 5-year plan by August 31st. And then by October 31st, they need to complete the application. For them to be eligible, those 2 things have to be done. Then the third criteria is either they have to have an opt-out or they got to do 50 cents levy. And at this point, it is the full 50 cents levy. They, you know, that who knows what legislature will do this year with that. But those are the 3 things that they have to do in order to be eligible for you to determine them by January 15th, who receives the funding.
Right.
But the other piece to that is what kind of a split, you know, like with the big grant, it's 80-20, you know, so this is all coming out of the RAFE funding. It's not coming out of county dollars. It's the RAFE funding that the state has put there for us to be able to distribute to the townships to help them. So I guess that's kind of where it's at, is what kind of a split are you thinking? Like, would you take like 70% of the rate funding and then have them pay 30, or do you want to use 80% of the funding and let them, and then they have to come up with 20%? It also depends on the scope of the project. You know, if it's a pretty high dollar project, 80% of that takes quite a bit of your rate funding. So you may want to put a cap on that as well, as far as,
I think the, Madam Chair, I think doesn't the law require them to at least do 20%? I mean, we have to, that's in statute, so we can add to that.
right,
I would say that perhaps one of the criteria we could establish would be the, especially as the amount of the project, you know, overall project increases, the amount that the township can handle. I mean, that's going to be a factor that we're going to have to weigh up. If they can handle more, that's going to be in their favor, obviously, for the rest of the grant. So, I mean, in general, that would be the general way I'd look at it. So,
because at this point, I don't know that, and maybe we have Travis here, he can maybe answer this question. This is the total amount that we're going to be receiving. There's no ongoing amounts that we will be receiving from the state, correct, at this point?
Well, for the next 2 years.
it's in
Next
in
2 years
statute.
up
But-
to what?
Additional funding, 3 years.
Yeah, but so it's gonna be that 299. I thought that was the total amount we would receive.
So if,
No, it should be divided for 3 years.
but we.
But
we've
we
already-
received it all already.
We've done 3 different allocations, right? And that's what that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause I thought the total amount was going to be that 299. I mean, then we have the interest and we didn't spend any of the first 2.
Right.
Yep. So that 299, that is the amount that's supposed to be coming every year?
Well, I don't know if it's equal every year. I think it's supposed to be every year though.
Okay, so I was thinking that was a total amount. Okay, because I was thinking too that it was supposed to happen over 3 years, but we already have that total amount.
Right, so you know, it's an annual, so I mean, that's the amount you have potentially to spend in just this next.
Every year.
Right,
So we
so
have 2 left.
Wow.
we should have 2 more of that amount coming.
Right.
Okay,
You don't know what you have to spend each year. You don't have to, you know.
Yeah.
Try to make it last over the next 3 years. You know, it's an annual deal.
okay. See, I was thinking that was the total amount that we were going to receive, but I thought it was gonna be split over 3 years, but we do have it already. Okay, so with that, then that will get to be some real numbers and going forward, if
Here's
that is.
what I would suggest, Madam Chair, is, well, first, I have a couple of questions. So do we have all the 5-year plans? And do we have any applications that came
Yes,
in?
you have one township that is eligible.
One township, okay, and did they make an application?
Yes, they've done everything. They did the 5-year plan, they've made an application, and they have an opt-out. And that's Pelican Township. They have all their documentation.
Okay.
So I just had them send it into the highway department so that everybody knows where they can
Yeah.
get that. But then you guys will have to retrieve it from record, whatever process you're going to have
Yeah, here's,
to get that information.
thank you for putting this on the agenda, so we pay attention to it, because that deadline is coming. I would suggest that maybe we sit down. I mean, I'm happy to help with this, but I went back and looked at some of the stuff on the township's website. And they had the LTAP manual. It's quite an extensive manual, goes through a lot of stuff, and there were some good, really useful things in there. So on the screen, I put up the criteria that the law tells us that we have to consider, which are, you know, pretty logical things. And then there was also an application. Let me show you this. There was an application form. I guess this is Minnehaha counties, but it has the township go through each of those criteria and say, like, okay, you know, traffic uses. So you check. So that's one of the factors that we're supposed to consider. So I like the fact that it makes the township think about, you know, all these different criteria. So it's a little easier for us, because us commissioners, we're not the experts on this, obviously. And then with the help of the highway superintendent, I'm thinking we could figure it out. So we probably just need to write down some of the stuff you've just said, you know, like we're gonna try to funnel the applications to the highway superintendent. You just put it down in a policy. It could be a 1-page, and then maybe think about, I know we talked about one application form, but I don't think it listed the criteria. You know, it had a place for the townships to, you know, the applicant to put down, you know, how it affects, how each project would affect those criteria. So that would be my suggestion, and it's gonna be, because we don't have the, you know, the expertise here. You might know some of these roads, Rick, but you're probably not gonna know all of them. We don't have the expertise to go out and say, you know, to evaluate each of these projects based on those criteria, but so we look to the township to help us out a little bit with that.
Okay.
So I would suggest maybe we sit down and just knock out a policy that we can, so everybody knows.
Okay, so, but for this year,
Yeah, I
that should have been
realize that.
done a long time
yeah,
ago,
I
because those
realize that.
deadlines have already come, and we have one township that met all the things
Yeah.
that they needed to
We'll have
do.
Go forward with that.
So I think you need to just figure out, like, for this one now coming up, what kind of a split is this going to be? Because they're the only ones that are eligible. Now, this is another decision that can be made. I guess you can go retrospect, because I'm guessing there will be some, which township was it, Cindy? I have that, so we have several that have opt-outs. And
There's only one that has the 50-cent funding.
yeah, but that one won't take effect till, did you say 2024?
No,
It will be in 2023.
It's in place now.
Okay, and that was Richland.
Let me double check.
So we have Graceland, Henry, Phipps, Pelican, Richland, and Sheridan, basically. Richland has the 50 cents levy. The other ones all have done an opt-out. But I'm guessing there will be several townships now coming up at their March meeting, because that's when they'll start that process, that will do the opt-out. We had one that came to us,
Opt-out or
or the 50 cents levy, yep. So I'm guessing that's going to happen, since they know this funding will be eligible for them.
What I would suggest then is we stick to the minimum 20%, you know, and
Do
then.
80-20 on the first
But
one.
But I haven't seen the application, so I don't have any idea what the size of it is.
Yes.
So we kind of know what.
Yep, so their estimate on this was $49,898.05. And they actually sent pictures, and GF&P has also weighed in on that one. So yeah, 49,898.05. So if you spend, so it'd be 80.
Approximately 10,000.
Yeah, it's-
Versus 20%.
Yeah, so that's great.
Bit under that.
Yeah, great, but
So you're saying that we're only gonna use 20% out of this, and they gotta come up with the 80.
no, the other way around.
You want it 80%.
That's what, I think that's the
how
intent.
you did
That's
it.
my understanding of the,
80%.
I think calculated 20%.
20%.
20% is just under 10,000.
that's our
Is that the rate funding?
That's the
That's- I thought the
township.
27
We're gonna do.
yeah, 27.
80% would be our portion.
So,
Right.
okay, so then it's,
Motion.
Right.
Well,
Very.
I'm not,
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
that's what I was
80%,
thinking too.
that's
It's
what I always
80.
said township.
so would you mind maybe if we do this, before we take a motion, maybe we do it just next week, try to write it in a policy, so it would. So we write it
So
down,
it's
in a
clear.
so write it down in a policy, understand that we have the urgency because of this application.
Yes,
And then it also help for March, for the guys in March, as we start talking about this, so they have something, a plan to go forth with, because.
because I believe that you could go retrospect possibly, since, although maybe you don't want to, maybe since we did have one that followed all the guidelines,
Mhm.
then a lot of these other ones won't be eligible till 2024. Because they'll have to go through that process next fall of August, and then October.
Beginning to
Yeah.
collect the money until.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
for example, I didn't know that, you know, thank you for bringing up, you know, keeping us on these deadlines, but I hadn't seen the application yet, so it's a little, I think before we. It would just say for now, I think it's safe to, you know, say that the minimum match on the part of the township is gonna be 20%. But as far as going forward, I think it'd be good to take a quick, you know, at least a look at the application, and then maybe we do something formally next week. So I'm happy to help. Maybe we can sit down. Yeah,
Until they, yeah, but we need to figure out the split probably, so that that's ready and in place for when they make that decision.
But on a case by case basis, I know you're looking at one case now, but you don't have to set, you know, a policy that says we're gonna do X percentage from here forward. You take the cases you have every year and you decide what you're gonna pay for each one.
Yeah.
So every year you could change that, but is that a fair way to do it? If you make some,
Yeah, you could set your policy based on the applicant, you know, say after August, what is it? October 31st, when you have all the applications, you have them all in, then you could look at that, or,
change it year by year.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the flag thing, where you cut it back and say, no, the township's gotta cover a little more than 20%.
Because of how many applicants you have come in.
yeah, so. Yeah, so,
Each project is not gonna be the same.
No,
right.
Yeah.
they're not.
All the dollars.
Yes.
I would,
Yes.
here, the direction. Yeah, the direction I think we should head is maybe, yeah, the minimum obviously is gonna be 20% on the part of the township. If a township wants to, offer in their application that they'll cover more than that, that's gonna be in their favor. If we have a lot, say if we get to a point where we have a lot of projects, a lot of applications, and they're actually competing between each other. So kind of like with the big program, so, and
I know I had talked to Greg Balver once and he said be careful about waiting.
yeah,
when
we
you're
might not want to
determining.
weight it. Yeah, weight the different criteria. Yeah, that gets tricky for us for,
Yeah.
but as far as,
Gonna put it on the agenda for next week.
I
Yeah.
got two things.
Yeah.
Number one,
So,
what's the plan to communicate with the townships? Because that's a challenge.
They have been receiving information all along from the association. They have sent out emails, they have conferences, they have been given all this information.
I think to answer your question, I think that's what a little bit on our part of it is just putting it on paper, saying this is the process now.
And when they
And
get
then-
the information, is it understandable? I'll use that term. I don't know if that is such a term, but
Yeah,
so they understand what the process is.
It should be.
yes. Right,
Okay,
We've
then the
had-
next question that I have is, okay, like we only have one application that is complete for this year. And we don't use the whatever number that we ended up with here. 299,000 or 358,000. There's too many figures here right now, but if we use just a portion of that, that carries over
yes,
to the next year.
yes. it
So
does.
we bank that.
Yeah, if I remember right. The townships have, 3 or 4 years to spend this money.
Once they get the grant,
Well,
Yeah.
so.
I think I believe it's 3.
We have to use that. money has to be
Yes,
used In 3 or 4 years.
It doesn't get banked in our account, it goes back into the state fund.
Yeah, if they don't use it, it'll go back to the state.
mhm,
So, but there's a limit on how long we'll have that money.
yes, and I think
These
it's
guys need to
3
get-
years.
So the money can get used.
Yes.
See, these are
so-
kinds of questions that need to be answered, so people understand that they gotta get on their horse and ride,
You know, like Codington Township, they took the bull by the horns and got with it.
Mhm.
The rest of them have not done anything.
We did receive a 5-year plan from Waverly Township and Rawville Township. So they did do their 5-year plans, but they did not submit an application. But
They
these
did-
5-year plans have to be done each year.
Yeah.
So
They did opt out, but they didn't sign some paper.
they didn't do the application of which culvert they maybe want repaired, and maybe they didn't have any, but I think Rawville would have. But they did not.
I did not take the proper steps to opt out.
Right, so they don't have an
Take the
opt-out.
Requirements from the Department of Revenue on an
Yeah.
opt-out.
So they don't have an opt-out in
Yeah.
place. So they got the 5-year plan done, but nothing else. So
So Mike, I have a question. So these deadlines, they're already part of a different policy. So you don't have to include that in your
No.
policy.
Right,
Is that
and
correct?
you
No,
don't have
we
to, it's
shouldn't.
already there, but I mean, we can refer to them, I think. We'd want to refer to them, but just to make it, so it's a document that the guys could look at. I'm thinking a couple pages and then.
I mean, these were this is from
Yeah.
the Townsend Township, what they were all emailed the same. thing.
Yeah, I think it
Very
would be
simple.
for the sake, if we,
Duplicating something that's already in place and you're gonna say, okay,
Yeah.
we have to have.
oh,
this,
the
or-
issue though, we have to say things like, okay, who's in charge of evaluating, screening the applications, who gets, who.
We are. That's
Okay,
already in
but-
our
But, okay, yeah,
needs to be on
but our
paper, so-
person is gonna be the highway superintendent, so the townships are gonna wanna work with, I mean, unless it's the.
You need a.
No,
person-
you are,
need a
well,
person to send
the
it to.
person that they submit it to would be the highway, but he has no,
I know,
there's nothing in here.
I
It
get
is
that.
your decision. It's
I
the
think-
board's.
I
decision.
get that.
department is just a collection.
Yes,
But we also,
Official started.
right,
For
okay,
the
but just like, we look to the expertise of that in helping us evaluate. Yes, it's our decision. We have to make that decision, just like, we take the advice of other
Well-
members, other department heads on things.
I don't know if you need that in policy. That's just maybe something you're going to do. Maybe it isn't every year. Maybe it's something else, but whatever. The only thing you really need to know is, okay, so if you're going to reevaluate these every year, that's just something you maybe say in policy to determine the split. This year it's
Yeah,
whatever.
I think in this year thing, the other thing is, as I was reviewing, I could have done it earlier. I think any of us could have, but thankfully, we only have one application, so that makes it a fairly easy decision, but as we're having to compare, if we're supposed to use these criteria, those applications should have places on that, so that's one thing. I don't think the current application that we're using has that. I like the examples that were in the LTAP guide, that were from, I believe, another county, so, so that would be a useful thing for us if we get a lot of applications, and it would also, I think, be useful with, I think I'm going to look to the highway superintendent for some expertise. I'm going to look to my fellow commissioners who particularly represent the rural districts, that have townships in their districts to kind of help us with that. So that's kind of so I just think we just need to, I'm not thinking of anything complicated here.
No, you do not need to make it complicated.
Add to that, when we help the townships go through and do the inventory on that, they know what they have. So like Pelican Township was their worst one.
Yeah.
And that's the one that started.
Yeah.
The other townships will do that. Start with their worst ones and go on down the line.
Do you foresee a problem, like if we say if
Does
several.
Rick want to come up here maybe so that,
Yeah,
I
so
guess
now here.
this whole conversation maybe is better if he comes up.
So just my question is, do you foresee a situation where we would have to, say no to some application? I mean, if we get a few of them in, we might have to say no to some and yes to others. I mean, or.
It would depend on how many we get,
Right.
because that
Okay.
$350,000 sounds like a lot of money, but
Yeah.
$50,000 just on the first one,
Right.
And some will be more, some will be less. But
That's why those criteria.
and like Travis said, maybe the split will be less.
Yeah.
So they each get something, maybe it'll be 50-50 or something like that, depending on what the cost of each one will be.
But I think what you're trying to say, Commissioner Gable, is we need a way of gauging what
Yeah.
that split is going to be, right? So we know,
Well,
right? So
I
it's
think-
not just a arbitrary number that we're throwing out there.
The state law
So-
tells us to compare based on a set of criteria. So if we get multiple applications, we should, weigh them against each other. Maybe not have a formal weighting system for each criterion, but either way, we have to apply these criteria. So let's put it on the application and make it easy for us in the future. It's not hard this year because we just have one,
Yeah.
but in the future it could be if we get a lot. So that's
Yeah.
that's my point.
I would suggest, so by October 31st of every year, everything should be submitted.
Yeah.
They should have an opt-out, they should have their application done, whatever application it is you determine that you want to use, and they need to have their 5-year plan done. So you have October until January 15th to make that determination.
Mhm.
So that's why this year I was contacted by one township, and these other ones, I just said, take them to the highway department. That's where we know to go retrieve them. So after October 31st, you get that information from Rick, and then you have time to mill that over and weigh whatever you're going to use for criteria, and then you should be able to make a decision by January 15th, and every year it could be different.
If we get one from every township and we've got $354,000, and we got $400,000 in requests, then you take the number and you divide it into the 354 and you come up, this is what you got left. You don't all get a part of it. It's just common sense.
Well, it's just kind of one of those things. Yeah, if you have several, then you change the amount, the percent. So
Right.
maybe you're able to help them all out a little bit, or, and that's where you'll be able to determine that from year to
It's
year.
like when you got 4 kids and you got $1,000 Christmas budget, right?
Yep.
Let's break it down into simple things.
Something
here.
else to think about.
Pretty simple.
The
Maybe
people
not.
that started this, put this money in this fund. They weren't reelected this last go around. And so this money may stop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, very well could be.
we need to use it. And it'll be for good projects, like the one in Pelican Township.
Mhm.
It needs.
He
to be-
needed it.
It needs to be
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them out there. So these guys will just get with it and use up the money, and hopefully they'll keep putting money in that fund because there's a need for it.
So-
But I have a question for Travis on this money. You mentioned that this was an ongoing for the next couple of years. Is that if the legislature changes, is that fund gonna continue, or is that gonna dry up if they change it?
our hope is that it continues. We're gonna be fighting.
Right,
But it's a 3-year deal, it's $15 million over 3 years.
So it's pretty locked in for the next 3
For
years.
3 years, yeah.
It's about a lot for the next, yeah.
You know, Unless, yeah,
So on
you.
those,
Unless something goofy happens.
unless they go to the legislature and say, no, we're doing away with this and whatever. But as
I
of
think
right now,
it's
that's what.
probably locked in for 3, for sure. It's ongoing is the unknown. Yep.
I certainly would be willing to help with it, Rick. I'd certainly be willing to help. And anything that you need to do, whatever paperwork we need to do, I'll certainly, I mean, I was on the township board forever, so I feel obligated.
So also on that, you know, and when these were reported to the state, they have their condition on them. They have
Yeah.
good, fair, poor, you know, and that's part of what you'll know by determining as far, and of course, one township's good might be different than another township's good. You'll probably have to go look at them or whatever, but anyway, to determine what your split is gonna be from year to year. So in the next week, I guess, try to work on a policy as far as, and for this one, we'll probably go 80-20. And then going forward, that will be a yearly decision made by the board. Also, my question is, okay, so once these are completed, I think it should be the responsibility of the township to notify the state that they're done, because they're the only ones that are going to know that it's completed.
Yeah.
So I think that's something also, rather than putting on us or Rick or somebody, it should be the township's obligation to notify the state that they're completed,
I don't know if that's been addressed or not.
because they're the only ones that will know.
It's the township. The county, the only thing we're here is to,
Take it in, take
Take
the
it in.
information in.
you know, because it's all on the township to get the stuff done.
Mhm.
You know, if they need engineering or whatever,
So I think that's something we could put in our policy. I don't know if it matters or not, but that can be one of our criteria, that when this is completed, is your obligation to notify the state, because they want to know when these are done, because that's part of their overall mapping of all the culverts in the state, so that they can keep track of which ones are getting taken care of or whatever. So
Yep.
they want to know that.
and they want to know if the money's being used.
Yeah, you absolutely want to use the money, because otherwise you won't, you know, if you're this, you know, why
Well,
keep?
that is a good idea because, and a good one to put in policy, because otherwise who knows, it might lay on some, might get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And this way it'd be more direct.
Oh, we certainly want to use it. We don't want to give it back to the state.
That's
No.
right.
So that's, yeah. Okay. So by next week, then I guess we'll just sit down and have a more firm policy,
okay.
but we will do 80-20.
Happy to work on it. Okay.
When-
That'll be part of that
Help
as well.
work With it too, whenever you want to get together. so.
Okay, yeah, let's knock it out.
I can be part of that as well, because I've probably had the most information. So going on this year.
If I may.
Yes.
I think the one thing that you guys, the law says that you guys need to do is, I don't really like how they use the word criteria, that you guys need to set up a criteria, but the criteria that you guys need to set up is what the townships need to do. They need to provide us with this, and this,
Mhm.
and the application like you're talking about.
It's,
I think that's what you need to make sure that, so that everybody submits
Yep.
all the same stuff instead of just paying a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what you guys need to do, decide, have a list of this is what you need to submit.
You got that.
That's up their website.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very good point, because I sat at the annual meeting, at the Rowville annual meeting, and I said, now Rowville Township has to opt out to be eligible for this. And apparently they didn't follow the right procedure. And you can't blame them, because they didn't know what to do. You know, they didn't,
Get that
Well, you can
information.
say that.
They
What's
get
that?
that information sent to them.
they did have the.
Oh, yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Well, it probably was
They
lost
took
between the
effort.
mailbox.
The thing they did not do is publish the notification.
Hmm.
They did everything. they
Except
needed,
publish.
Except publication.
Yeah. And same thing is
Required by law.
Mhm.
the Townsend Township Association has been very good about getting information out, and very, like, you know, they put this whole structure inventory handbook together for them. They,
That was
And-
one question that I had was are these deadlines being passed on to the townships? I
Oh,
mean, are they
yes.
clear to them? Because
Mhm.
we've had townships sit in front of this board before and they said, well, we didn't know. And
Right.
so I just want to make sure that those
Yeah.
deadlines are being,
oh, yeah.
you know,
Well, how did one
I
township
mean,
how was one township able to do it?
Right, yeah,
Because they had
yeah. I
someone
get it.
on the board that was on the stick, you know, and
Yeah.
just took the bull by the horns and did it, but I mean, I've been sitting on these township boards for years. I know how they operate. It's pretty loose.
I was, and I talked to Brenda, but I intended to have a meeting this fall, but it didn't get it done, but I'm gonna take advantage of, the February
Yeah.
22nd meeting, board meeting. My goal is to get at least one officer from all 17 townships there.
Awesome.
Because they don't show up to these things. That's the
Yeah.
annual conference with all this. We have a website, we give them quarterly newsletter in the mailbox. It's all in front of them. We just have to dig it in.
Most of those people are on that board because they were forced to.
Well.
And that's just the way it is. And I mean, I work with those people. They just don't understand, and they don't understand the importance of getting the paperwork done. Plain and simple.
I would
If you want the money,
say,
you gotta complete the paperwork.
Right.
You gotta
I
meet the
would say-
deadlines. I mean, that's no different.
Who gets the money?
Yeah.
the
We want
previous meeting that you were at that one. I mean, it's been mentioned at several of them. Yes.
Last year's.
Yes.
We did it. I did it.
Yes, you did a presentation, so it isn't like that hasn't been in front of them, but now the deadline's here and most of them have missed it.
Need to do it before the soup.
All right.
So, all right, I guess we'll work on that then, but yeah, that makes
Thanks,
sense that every year that criteria could be different on the split, depending on how many you have.
Right, and you have to weigh, say, one is. That's terrible.
Mhm.
You know, it's almost not passable. You gotta wait.
Yep.
One's not so bad, that's, you guys can weigh that.
Yes,
It said one of the criteria that from the state, number 7 says contribution from township or others to the project and ability of the township to fund the project without, you know, so that's one of the criteria that the state tells us to look at, so.
if they're gonna help
Yeah,
find,
like
well, the thing is,
Level of contribution from the township.
you can have an emergency come up after that deadline too, you know, we could have a spring where there's washouts, you know, and then at that point,
Changes everything.
it could change things, so.
But if there's money in the account, there's no reason to go less than.
Right.
Right.
That money eventually could be-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Did we ever determine is 20% by law?
It is.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Minimum
So that's-
20%
Yep.
by the town.
all right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
all right. Well, we'll put that back on then next week's agenda as well to get that finalized. All right, item number 13, action to declare electronic equipment surplus to be destroyed.
This is equipment from the sheriff's office. One piece is a Toshiba copier purchased in 2018. And the other is a Fujitsu tablet computer used in one of the patrol vehicles.
Make a motion to approve that
Motion
request.
by Van Duzen,
Second.
second by Waterman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, item number 14, action to approve claims for payment.
So we have several different types of claims today. The first one is the E911 surcharge.
I will excuse myself from this.
City of Watertown in the amount of $22,924.85 for 911 surcharge collections in October.
Move to approve.
Motion by Johnson,
Second.
second by Gable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that motion carries.
And then we have the remainder of the claims in the amount of $4,391,456.43. Of that amount, $541,354.01 goes to the state of South Dakota. The county share is 3.8 million plus. And of that amount, just over 3 million is the amount that we're paying back to Next Era.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by Gable, second by Van Duzen. Any comments or questions? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Opposed, that motion carries.
And then we have salary claims. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Salary claims for the month of December total $630,211.54. And that amount does include $16,230 in longevity payments to employees based on your previously adopted schedule.
Move to approve.
Motion by Johnson, second by Gable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries as well. All right, then we can move on to item number 15, action to approve automatic budget supplements.
We have one of those today, and this is for the purchase of Homeland Security. Utilizing Homeland Security grant funds. We have received some reimbursements and the rest are estimated. And doing an automatic budget supplement, we can use the estimated amount that is supposed to come back. The state just has not made payment to us yet, and that amount will go into the emergency management budget in the amount of $145,429.01.
Move to approve.
Motion by Van Duzen, second by Gable. Comments, questions? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 16, action to approve personnel changes.
I have nothing for 16
Or 17. Public notices, possible quorum of commissioners. Until next week, probably not a lot happening.
Just to note, the courthouse will be closed Friday and Monday.
23rd and 26th.
Yes, day before Christmas Eve and the day after Christmas, yes.
All right. Anyone have anything else? How about old business? Do we have any?
Yes, Madam Chair,
Yes.
you and I have been talking to Vince Foley, who was trying to help us with this public defender pool. And in the end, it was, so basically what we had before, the system we had before that we ended was to hire a primary and then a secondary public defender just on contract periodically. That does save the county some money, but that system no longer works with the caseload that we have. So that's why we ended that. The typical system, when you don't have a public defender office as part of your, as part of like a separate county department, is you use the court appointed attorney rate that's established by the state. So that means the judge in each case can appoint an attorney that's willing to take a case to defend a case. And then the state establishes a rate. So next year that rate's going to be $107 an hour attorney fees, and then plus expenses. So that's basically
It's currently 101.
yeah, currently 101. It's going up next year to, I think I want to say 107 if I'm not mistaken. So
That's all right.
so what that means is that's a lot cheaper than a typical attorney rate. On the other hand, it's a little bit more expensive than having the single public defender by contract. We were trying to do a pool where we would basically have just a contracted pool and divvy up that amount, a budgeted amount that might save us a little bit of money. However, that doesn't look like it's going to really work out because it's a lot. There's a lot of different reasons for it. One nice thing about the current system that we're using, which is basically not having a contract, having public defenders appointed case by case, so to speak, by the judge, is that the billing is much more timely because they don't, there's not a retainer fee you're paying. So in order for an attorney to get paid, they need to file paperwork. Basically, they need to bill us through the auditor's office. So that seems to be working pretty well. So basically the thought is we should just leave it the way it is because it seems to be working well. It does, I think it might cost a little bit more than contracting, but if you don't have the attorneys that want to sign that public defender contract, it's not going to work. And then everything kind of slows down anyway. So that kind of balance of doing it this way. So the hourly rate might be a little higher, but things work a lot more efficiently. So you save money that way, particularly in, I think, the places like the jail where you can keep cases moving quicker. So just to let everybody know, that's I think where we're at right now.
And there are two different descriptions. What we're going to be talking about are court appointed attorneys.
Right.
A public defender.
Yeah, it's not, it means a resident. It means
Yeah.
That will mean no longer.
Yeah, so yeah, it's court appointed attorneys appointed by the bench and those attorneys need to submit their bills to the clerk of courts first, and then we get it from the clerk of courts.
Yeah.
Because they
based
approve.
on the judge's decision on how it should be paid.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can, the places where we might have to look as time goes by, I mean, for both of you, I guess, is that, if there's some stipulations or some rules about how you want the paperwork submitted or something like that, I don't know if you have much, stuff like that.
I mean, right now, it does come to us from the clerk of courts, and when we get it, it's supposed to have the judge's signature signing off on it. So
Okay. There was one concern about, if you have a case that's maybe not, like a murder case or some serious felony,
billings.
yeah, interim billings, and being willing to do that for something that drags on a long time. So that might, and that's understandable for cash flow purposes, that might be something we need.
They'd have to,
It does add a burden to.
you have to keep track.
Of keeping track of what's already been paid.
Right.
Sometimes.
But that should be in the paperwork though, that the judge signs and everything if they.
You'd have to hang, I mean, that would have to, a file would have to be started. or
The
something.
judge does not keep track though.
No, not personally,
What they
but-
signed.
But the clerk,
Previously.
Approved.
Approved, right.
well, maybe we
Then
need to.
it Falls on us.
To keep track.
We need to work out something with the
Yes.
clerk of courts maybe
Yes,
to,
the burden falls on the county
Mhm.
to go back and look at those and
Right.
see what.
Which ones
previously
have been paid.
well, it'd be, if we can,
Okay.
that'd be nice to.
Yeah.
That's basically, just
Yes.
need to let everybody know about that.
So the mileage will go to $1 per mile as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is working. The clerk of courts and the judges, they have a good sense then. So I think something that we were running into quite a bit when we had the public defender contract was our conflict of interests were starting to get to be more. So then you
Yes.
had to go and you had to pay the attorney their rate. So,
So you're doing
this
it-
may.
you're basically doing it.
Yep. So basically, this should help expedite some of that and anything that would be a conflict will just automatically go to the other law firm. So I think it's been working well. Can always be reevaluated if we run into a hiccup. So,
I mean, the other option is to have a public defender office, which is, I don't,
Basically accounting.
where you're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
we-
put them.
I don't,
Yeah.
we're not ready for that. Yeah. we're not ready to-
Yeah, and then to find a spot. Yeah, okay, new business. Anyone have anything? Anything for the open? I don't think we had anybody call anything, no need for executive session.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Johnson,
Second.
second by Gable. All in favor, say aye.
Hi,
Opposed, that motion carries.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Oh, yeah, Merry Christmas. It doesn't even feel like it. I don't know why. What happened?